Hello, my friends. Today, the occupiers are maintaining high activity across the entire front line. Again, over 100 assaults in the past 24 hours, and they are trying to expand the front as much as possible, conducting periodic attacks on the border. However, these offensive actions are carried out by small groups, so they haven't achieved any success. All these attacks are intended to create tension at the border and keep our troops engaged there. Meanwhile, the shelling of border settlements continues without interruption. But there are also ongoing strikes and fires on Russian territory, and it has been reported that there is another fire at the monocrystal plant in Shebekino, which the Russians wanted to create a buffer zone for. Now, let's move on to the situation along the front line, starting with the Kharkiv direction. Here, despite all the recent reports that the Russians have gathered a large number of reserves for an offensive, they haven't made any progress in the past 24 hours. There were a few assaults recorded near the village of Liptsi, but they achieved no success. In Vovchansk, the fighting continues unabated. Here, as before, the initiator is with the Ukrainian forces, so the Russians cannot advance and are suffering huge losses. In the Kupiansk direction, there were 10 assaults in the past 24 hours. The Russians cannot fully capture Sinkivka and have been assaulting the outskirts of the village for the second week now. Attacks on Stepova Novoselivka also continue, and after yesterday's shelling, assaults have begun near Petropavlivka. However, these efforts are not yielding any success for the Russians, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Svatove direction, the occupiers have been tasked with breaking through to Borova. Consequently, they are shelling the settlement and continuing assaults near the villages of Berestove, Stelmachivka, and also Kopanki. However, they haven't achieved any success. Further south, attacks on Hrekivka and the village of Makivka also continue. The situation remains unchanged here as well. In the Crimea direction, the activity hasn't decreased, despite the fact that the Russians are suffering losses and not achieving any success. Over the past day, they conducted more than 4 assaults in the areas of Nevsky, Terne, and Torske. However, the front line remains unchanged. In the Siversk direction, the occupiers conducted 4 assaults. They are attempting to break through in the areas of Spirne, Vyimka, and the attacks on Rozdolivka are continuing. Despite all the Russian claims about capturing Rozdolivka, there is still no confirmation of this. The front line here remains unchanged. Additionally, yesterday evening, the Ukrainian forces reported new assaults on Bilohorivka. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the occupiers continue to assault the outskirts of the city. The situation in micro districts is challenging. The occupiers are using a large number of troops to advance on this section of the front. But the Ukrainian forces are effectively destroying them, and the front line remains unchanged. The battles near Klishivka also continue, and the outskirts of the village remain in the gray zone. As a result, the occupiers haven't been able to secure their flanks. They are failing to enter the city directly, leading to significant losses and no results. The success is on the side of the Ukrainian forces here. In the Toretsk direction, the activity is at its peak with 26 assaults over the past day. The occupiers are attacking the areas of Druzhba, Залізне, Північне, Торецьк, and New York. They are actively using aviation, resulting in a high number of bombardments. However, the Ukrainian forces managed to repel all attacks, and the front line hasn't changed over the day. Although, if this continues, the probability of a breakthrough certainly exists. In the Pokrovsk direction, the occupiers have slightly reduced their activity to 27 assaults over the past day compared to the previous 50. Nevertheless, the battles are still ongoing near Vozdvizhenka, Novoalexandrivka, Yevgenivka, the village of Progress, Novoselivka, Persha, Umanske, and Karlivka. The Russians are using tanks and other armored vehicles in an attempt to break through the defense, which they are losing in large quantities every day. For now, there are no changes along the front line. In the Kurakhove direction, the occupiers conducted 18 assaults. There are ongoing battles in Krasnohorivka, and the Ukrainian forces report that the situation there is deteriorating. The assaults on Georgievka, the village of Kostantinivka, and Paraskovievka continue without pause. The situation is quite challenging. Here, the Russians are also actively using equipment, and some reports indicate that in the past day, 4 tanks and 9 armored vehicles were destroyed in this area. And of course, the fighting continues. In the Zaporizhia, or in the direction of Vuhledar, the occupiers are not launching any new offensive actions, and they have also not achieved any success near Urozhaine. In the Zaporizhia direction, attacks continue in the area around Molotokmachka, while near Robotine all assaults have ceased. The Russians haven't achieved any success, and all attacks are being repelled. However, it's reported that the Russians are preparing a new wave of offensive actions here. And in the Kherson direction, the occupiers again trying to push the Ukrainian forces from the left bank, but they haven't achieved any success, and the front line remains unchanged, with the shelling continuing as usual. Although it's no longer hidden that there are losses on the Ukrainian side as well. Therefore, the war needs to be stopped as soon as possible, and President Zelensky said we don't have too much time because we have a lot of wounded and dead people on the battlefield and through the civilians. That's why we don't want to have this war for years. It's also visible today that after the arrival of a sufficient amount of ammunition on the front line, the situation has somewhat stabilized. The number of Russian breakthroughs has increased, and this is not the final support. There will be more to come, and our partners have realized that winning this war is necessary. Otherwise, it will be worse for everyone. And this is why Kaya Kallas called for long term support for Ukraine.
We have to set victory as a goal. As historian Timothy Snyder has said, you don't always win wars, but you never win them if you don't set victory as a goal. The outcome of this fight is existential for the security of the whole transatlantic community. And for this, we need an allied pledge of long term support for Ukraine.
And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.